Welcome back to the most professional StarCraft 2 with the former World Champion Terran in the red. It's Micro Jackson, ByuN, facing off against one of his greatest rivals. In the blue, the underling, we have Shin, in a best-of-5 Terran versus Zerg tournament showdown between two players who truly believe that quantity has a quality all its own. And speaking of quantity and quality, it'd be incredible if you could smash that like button, maybe even subscribe. Help me count the algorithm, and Jimmy, what are we at? Jimmy. 1,746 likes on this video, on this cast, and I'll cast another one. And I'll probably do it anyways, because I don't know what else I do with my life. But thank you for watching. Hopefully, you've had a good day so far. And hopefully it's about to get just a little bit better, as the Reaper finally makes its way to the front of Shin's base, taking quite a scenic route to get here. And did he SCV scout? Of course he did. ByuN, on the reckless side of greed, but the only admission that he might just die, or at least get very far behind to 6 Zerglings, was scouting a little bit off to the side with the first Reaper. But ByuN has always been pushing the bleeding edge of greed on more like the side of recklessness sometimes, and even now, building his third command center on the low ground, though, you know, kind of close to the ramp. It's something of a wall. Makes things difficult if the Zerg want to come across the map. Though I have my suspicions that Shin is going to do nothing of the sort. Most of his success, in general, and specifically against ByuN, is just overwhelming him in the late game, where ByuN gets bogged down with his multitasking, his micro, his mind games. Shin gets bogged down by seeing how many Zerglings, Ultras, banelings, usually those 3. It's always those 3, whenever there's some sort of Zerg issue, but seeing how many he can throw away, and then hopefully how many he can replace them with. But we're not there yet, though we're speeding our way towards it, as the first banshee is in production. Will there be cloak? ByuN has both gases. Yes, cloak is on the way. The 111 barracks, factory, starport, the Destiny Cloudfist build, a staple of Terran versus Zerg strategy for most of ByuN's career. All of ByuN's career. So 16 years going on now in StarCraft 2. Oh, 15 and change, but the one thing that doesn't change is, well, hopefully anything in the minds of Terran players, but also Hellions and banshees being a staple of Terran versus Zerg. Very simply, Zerg has limited to no anti-air capability. The queens and their knitting needles can't do much to keep the banshees from simply flying away. Something they can't partake in themselves. So the Hellions keep the lings at bay, and the banshees are able to help control the creep. And if there is some sort of shenanigans, like a Zergling or a roach all-in, well, those aren't so good against the banshees themselves. If the Zerg wants to get any damage done, especially in this day and age, it has to be a commitment that involves the queens or somehow denies the banshees. So, well, one way of doing it is simply taking them down before the cloak. Half the HP gone before the cloak is completed, but the banshee will back off in time. Plenty of Hellions darting across the map. But now production, it's going to be barracks, stim, +1 armor first on the way. The 4th hatchery under fire from the banshee. The queens doesn't want to risk the Shin having an overseer ready. Now we know the layer's only halfway done, and we know that the Hellions are running right. This is private property. Well, so far the Hellions roasting the Zerglings, the drones being immolated as well. Not too much damage yet, but things starting to heat up. The queens will kill all but one singular Hellion, but at the same time, the banshees outright killed the 4th base. Meanwhile, a curious rally point out of ByuN. Hey, Billy. Hey, Bob. What brings you here? Oh, That ByuN with the miss rally across. He's just like me, for real, for real. The miss rally across the map. 4 SCVs dead. Shin losing drones left, right, and center, losing the 4th hatchery, plummets to a 16-worker lead. So, ByuN outright killed the hatchery, which is not the end of the world, but it, you know, doesn't help. Thing is, After killing, he committed all the Hellions. The Banshees have been pulled back, and it's very clear now that ByuN is winding up for a Marine medevac timing. That means Shin has been able to get away with refilling those drones, and knowing that there's not really a risk of a ground army coming across the map for a while yet. The Banshee is going to kill a whole bunch of these creep tumors, splitting the damage perfectly. A master oncologist there, and slices away the majority of the creep. And really, Shin doesn't have much going for him. Creep-wise, I felt like that was contradicting my previous point of Shin being in a good spot economically. I would like to be clear, the creep is not going great. Almost everything else, pretty good. I wouldn't say great, pretty good though. I'd go that far. Hedge my bets a bit. 1-1 is on the way for both sides, and by on the way I mean completed for ByuN just moments ago. +2 infantry weapons. The banelings do speed finishes mid-roll down the round. And that siege tank optimistic gets a good hit, just picks up and actually heads forward with the Marines. Gonna try to outmaneuver the banelings. Won't be so great for now, but the Banshee's finding another angle in the main base as the Queen's still trying to deny them. Marines picked up, playing the hokey pokey right now, and drop them all about. Meanwhile, Banshee, are you still going? Banshee 7 kills and actually will fly away. Its counterpart was taken out, but a Banshee's a constant missile-based thorn in the side. As even with Hydras out, there's no really reliable way to deal with them. The Queens, though, every Queen tasked with dealing with this Banshee. And finally, it will be driven away for now. Shin maintains the supply lead. He just now started his infestation pit, which means he's still quite far off the Hive. The Hydraling Bane count is growing dramatically, though, and the creep spread has been shored up, and the Banshees and the Marines themselves haven't really been here to deal with it. Scan. Shin splitting his forces, very aware of the drops in the bottom right corner. Banelings targeted. Doesn't quite get enough to stand his ground, and the Hydras would have pushed him back anyways. ByuN bullied out of position. But still, at the very edges of the creep, he's just targeting down banelings, making sure that Shin has to pay for every inch, every centimeter, every cubit he goes across the map. And he does it with Zerg blood. Which, you know, actually a natural fertilizer. Fun fact. The more you know. Fourth command center. Floating its way towards the north side, the 12 o'clock. Meanwhile, more Hydralings and Banes. The Banshee's still here. Another Overseer completed, targeting down a few more Banelings. Might finally be knocked out. Hydras take it out of the sky, prompting several Overseers for that one Banshee. Meanwhile, the Marines, ooh, kind of a panic pickup, but not so panicky now. Former! They'll expect some of us in the wreckage, brothers. Why, though? I don't... Hey, that be it? Oh, it's you. Another drop attempted in the main and knocked out immediately. The medevac barely escapes from the Hydras with a few Marines in tow, and ByuN, a series of incredibly unfortunate events as every medevac has been driven back just as Shin is headed towards Hive. This is when Shin should be under the most pressure, but instead ByuN is just now moving out with a parade of Marines, Marauders, and Mines on his way across the map. Shin is maxed out, and there's no reason not to go. The Widow Mines going to burrow, take some big hits on the Lings and Banes, but not nearly big enough. The Marines on the low ground, though, engaging the Hydras directly. Micro's back. Micro's through the Banelings, and somehow the Marines survived the gauntlet. The Banelings partitioned in such a way that somehow ByuN was able to scrape maybe a Pyrrhic victory out of a potentially devastating defeat. All the Banelings were split off to the north side. ByuN microed back against them, and then it was just Marines against Hydras, and Hydras are made out of tissue paper and tears. Fun fact. The more you know. A direct confrontation with the Terran is not something they're going to survive easily. Though ByuN struggling to refill, as Shin already had 80-something drones and 5 bases going from him. The Widow Mines deadly to everyone involved. Almost knocks out his own medevacs, but a lot of the Zerglings with it. Optimistically building a command center on location. Splits off the Banes, and again, ByuN will take it. Another Widowmon hits home. The Zerglings almost entirely thinned out. But Shin just trickling units across the map. Has to be careful never to be left with less than a critical mass. But 60 more Zerglings in production. Only 200 have died thus far, and those are rookie numbers. We gotta pump those numbers up. 3 command centers simultaneously for ByuN. Somehow finding the money. He's not even maxed out, but Ghost Cloak is on the way. The Ghosts themselves in production. Siege tank on the high ground. Widowmon's drilling claws completed, and the Zergling's gonna feel it very quickly and then feel nothing at all. ByuN keeping the supplies very close to even, especially as he's going up towards 5-6 bases and he's adding ghosts into the composition. This is when things get a lot more complicated for the Zerg. But the creep spread so far looking very good. Shin over halfway across the map, and most importantly outside his key bases. Giving him a... Brenda! I'm never using Apple Maps again. Brenda, get back to creep! I'm going as fast as I can. Brenda! Susan, calm down. I don't... Sorry, I blacked out for a moment. Fusion Core is on the way as ByuN adds another starport, and he works his way up towards the top tier tech for his top tier units. Mostly medevacs and liberators, but you know, of the units. Lurkers. There are already ghosts on the field, but the lurker count is quite high. Lurker range is completed, but not lurker burrow speed, so this is a bit of a precarious position for both sides. And the Lynx trying to get the wrap around. The Widowmon takes out a chunk. The banelings roll in. Several of the ghosts take it out. The lurkers go forward onto what is soon to be a planetary, but hasn't quite made it there yet. Scampering away to the north. The drop over to the left side has been holding here for a while yet. As the intensity of the game continues to ramp up, he splits, he stims, and down go the lurkers, though they take a few Terrans with them. Nidus network is on the way. Adrenal glands. Shin! Adrenal glands completing in a relatively timely manner. Shin, it's been a little while since I've seen Shin play. Maybe he was training every single game to make sure he hits those adrenal glands upgrades. 40% attack speed on the unit you sometimes quite literally make thousands of is pretty good. Even if many of them will not survive nearly long enough to attack, some of them will. Well, now, ByuN building more CCs than a poorly formatted corporate email chain. 3 more finishing up in the main. 17 more banelings in production for Shin. As, the Nidus defense team. Couple ghosts and whatever marines he was able to slap together. Lurkers targeted down. Widowmon! Oh, 19 kills. Terrible, terrible damage being dealt by the mines across the board. But Shin is maxed out, though he doesn't have much money in the bank. Meanwhile, ByuN is also maxed out, and he's put way too much money, arguably. He's going to have 7, 8 orbital commands. He's building more command centers, more CCs per minute than, well, it's over 1 at this point. I think he has over 15 CCs, or we're about to get there. Meanwhile, multiple hatcheries in production for Shin, not slouching economically. He currently has the income lead as he's mining from a couple more bases. Mules can't completely fix that. That's so many banelings. That is so many banelings. 57 banelings just rolling their way through. Widowmon will take out about 1/6 of it. A few ghosts going to eat it. The planetary fortress. That much acid easily counters the base. And the Liberator's gonna siege up. The ghosts line up their shots, and detection ran out. And yet again, Shin looks like he's gonna win the fight by just battering down the door with an absolutely uncomfortable amount of banelings. But instead, ByuN, he keeps his cool, and he's able to turn the fight around. The Nidus, the Liberator, gonna point it out. It technically can't kill buildings this patch. And so far, ByuN getting a significant edge in these fights, though not enough so that he can just fight right back. He's able to hold on to his bases strongly, but he didn't win hard enough to just go walking across the map and get damage done on Shin's side, which means there's going to be another attack, and another, and it's not going to stop until Shin runs out of minerals or ByuN wins a fight so hard that he can actually march on to creep. And so this is restricted layer Got him. Yeah, got him. No, I said that. Well, we said that. No, Susan, no. Sorry. Nuclear missile is on the way. A reasonable response. We'll see if we go beyond it, but that is one way to potentially get an inordinate amount of damage done for a very small amount of supply. The Ghost being only 2 nowadays, again, certainly is a lot of hurt in a small package. 4 more command centers. What is happening? Move command from both sides. The medevac's quite optimistic, but well, he's never going to be left with that. He's got a dozen overseers. The Oversight Committee. A very roguelike strategy. The Widow Mines are scattered between. There's multiple planetary fortresses. The Tower Defense Terran is coming together. But the Nidus networks, a very smooth move to knock out the Overseer and the Nidus. Pretending like a tactical withdrawal there was the plan all along. Shin actually gets supply blocked somehow, despite having this many Overseers. I guess kind of efficient not to have too many. This is too many command centers. Like, I draw the line at 15, fine. I draw the line at 18. He is maxed out, but not too much in the bank for ByuN. The Overseers just making he EMPs them. Why not? I guess that minimizes the changelings. The banelings trying to roll through the alleyways. Between the command centers, the planetary finally gets taken out. There was a Nidus somewhere. I think it may have been just towards one of his bases. But ByuN now potentially ready to march across the map. There's the Cyril Fester. Why are you always building 3 command centers? This is unsustainable growth. But the shareholders, ByuN, no! I don't. There's only so many minerals. 40 more banelings on the way. Shin has lost 127, and those are just the ones that have not died before attacking. Technically, when they die, they also attack, but it's a quirk of the unit's lost tab. I feel like I always need to say it because there's been way more than 127 banelings. It's just some of them got real excited and exploded early, and don't blame them for it because that's their job. The Lings and Banes are rolling through, though. Gonna look to take out an... Oh, surprise! Here comes the Infestor, and the Fungal holds him down, and the Banelings knock him out. A Venn diagram of freedom from the Liberator is gonna try to hold it together a little while longer. And ByuN takes a big hit there. The Cyril Fester pops up, and from the darkness binds them. And for the first time, we look at this battle report, and Shin is the one destroying more. You got 11 ghosts. 26 as 11 ghosts. I need to stress that. That's a lot. The Infestor just kind of stuck around and then dies. ByuN still has 9 orbital commands. Shin has 8 hatcheries, but pretty much all of them are at important bases that he can actually mine from. The mules. Wow, ByuN is down to 138 supply. What a hit. And I mean, the mules are going to climb the income mountain back to potential parity, but unfortunately, he didn't have the reinforcements. The stalemate was broken with that outright attack. The fungal in the right place at such a right time. The ghosts don't have enough energy for snipe, but the corruptors are finally here to knock out the liberators. There's no Widow Mines to thin out the banelings. He drops changelings, which actually kind of stop the banelings from being able to attack as easy. And ByuN, with 6 orbital commands on the screen and 0 units left to kill, taps out of the game. And in deep Shin in game number 1. ByuN maybe a little overinvested in the command centers and underinvested in being able to strike back. He had 10 orbital commands at the end of the game. Shin had 9 hatcheries, including the Hive. So, I'm just saying, maybe a bit much. ByuN. I mean, always pushing the edge of greed. All right, he has a tendency to see the line and go a little bit further. And I can respect that. As a greedy player myself, and a greedy caster, I'm simply asking you. Oh, what? Like and subscribe. Game 2. Mothership. The only Protoss we're gonna see today. Thankfully. Am I right? Jimmy, edit that out. It was gonna get weird. And it's already more weird if I stop there. No, we're not doing phrasing. A 3-player map. And I believe the number 1 or number 2 vote from not from players, from casters and the community in the new map contest to be in the new map pool, and one of the least favored maps by players. I am endlessly amused, though not surprised, as both the community, as in not tournament organizers, but just viewers for the most part, or players who aren't in the top 40, which was the player vote, and players having such a very different idea of what they want on the ladder. So the players voted for, I believe, Winter Madness, Ruby Rock, and Taito Citadel, which are 3 of the most standard possible maps, whereas the people voted for Mothership, Celestial Enclave, and 10,000 Feet, 3 of the least standard maps, which, for the first time, we, thanks to the intern at Blizzard, are able to, kicking and screaming, drag the players into playing some of these maps. And you might be like, now, those of you who are more experienced and knowledgeable, which is most of you because you're my viewers, and you're intelligent and breathtaking and humble and modest, just like me. Welcome. But, thank you, Jimmy. Where were we, though? And definitely don't lose your train of thought ever. But, so, players go through a veto process usually when they're playing. Some tournaments are just loser picks, the next map, but usually they work out the maps beforehand. It's interesting, and I've noticed that a lot of we don't end up just seeing those 3 standard maps so far in the new map pool. I do think now that it's there and it's on the ladder, at least some players are like, well, I should actually come up with something for these different maps with different strategies. Because who knows? And it's not always necessarily cheesy. It might just be a different unit composition, like on Celestial Enclave, how you have that backdoor base. On a 3-player map like Mothership, you can get away with a lot, but you could also get very lucky if you directly punish it. ByuN is opting for Reapers. Because of course he is. Oh. And the Queen taking a lot of damage. The Overlord, luckily, was sent in the right direction. There's a 1 in 2 chance. Oh, the Queen, no! The Zergling speed's still pretty far off. The Reaper's racking up the kills. Not as bad as it looks so far. Second Queen coming down. And there she goes! The assassination. The Reaper's still a deadly choice. And he knows that speed is finishing up. So it's time to back off. Head back home. The damage is done. Shin is already behind on workers. He lost a Queen. He does have the 3rd hatch, but ByuN, 3rd CC is on the way. Shin... Did ByuN actually... That Overlord is somehow... It is like an air blocker area, but somehow that Overlord is actually out of... Don't let me... Up against the air blocker, but... technically out of vision, because air units, by default, have slightly more vision than ground units. There are some exceptions, because some units have a little more vision than others, but that's also why you need, like, spotters for siege tanks and such. But that means the Overlord can see you, and you don't necessarily see it. Something to think about when you're trying to fall asleep at night and your eyes are closed. You have much less vision than air units in that case. I'm just saying. Overlord coming in. we'll see a Tech Lab starport, and he's gonna be like, all right, it's Banshees. No. Well, that's not a weird amount of Marines. There's a Raven on the way, because ByuN went for the 2 Rex. So that means he's going to have an early stim time. Occasionally, very occasionally, never with ByuN. It ends up being some sort of crazy mech build and a huge swerve. But no, this part of the benefit for ByuN, deja vu, I've just been to that. No, we're drifting. Sorry. Not sorry. Okay, a little sorry. I landed on a little sorry. Anyways, part of the benefit of going for the Reapers is, even if the Reapers don't do critical damage for ByuN, he's still got a bunch of Marines, and he's got stim pack done very early, so he can keep the pressure on in just the way he likes. Shin, on the other side, has +1 Carapace on the way, actually a little quicker than the upgrades for ByuN. But it's really not about the upgrades, besides that stim pack, as he comes marching across the map. A bunch of dudes with drugs, guns, and a strong and vocal hatred of what they're calling illegal aliens is something that reminds me of home, and also is a staple of Terran strategy, historically and currently. So, the Queen's gathering to try to deal with this, and the Zerglings looking for the wraparound. If he can knock out even a single medevac, that's a lot less potential damage. Trying with the Raven, instead of going for the creep. Ooh, is that he's building a Colossus here? That's crazy. This is how they used to build them back when they knew how. Can he take that out with the auto turrets? I don't think so. I think he thought about it for a moment, though. So he builds a Raven and then just uses it for, well, so far nothing, but threatening auto turret harass. Which, quite underwhelming. We'll see, though. I love how the creep looks on that little force field floor. The Marines stimming in. The Spore Call zone out. Takes out 1 Queen. Picks up 2 medevacs worth of Marines. Not everyone can make it out. Raven trying to sneak in. Gonna slap down the auto turrets. The Spore... Raven just gets Edgar Allan pwned. Well, that was pretty sad. Killed a Queen. Forced a response of sorts, but it was more asking whether or not he could than whether or not he should, I think. Infestation pit's already on the way. Not particularly quick, but this time around, no Hydralisk down, right? No Hydralisk down. Gotta pin the Marines up against the edge. I don't think that's an air block. Wow. Not sure how it fades away from the force field. It just absorbs it or something. Only lost 6 Marines so far. And those 3pers that couldn't fit in the medevac last time. Second factory on the way for ByuN. 69 SCVs up against 74 drones. A very nice economy to start things off for the Terran, especially with mules. Gonna give him a comparable economy overall. And already a 4th command center is on the way. ByuN's moving out. Picks up a single tank. Yep, that's the spot right there. This is a house tank. Gotta be jammed in behind those minerals. There are some spots on some maps where you can literally only get there with a chauffeur. And so far, finds another angle. Hive is halfway there. But ByuN, okay. Pathing is struggling, but ByuN finding all the doors and corners with those siege tanks, because that's where they get you. So 3 more racks. Quite a macro game coming together. Shin adding a few more drops. Finally, the Zerglings. ByuN, in his hubris, dropped a few feet away, and now his feet get ripped out from under him. Another double drop. The double-double, a absolute classic. But so far, losing that drop to the north takes some of the punch out of it. More siege tanks on the way across. Ultralisk Cavern is on the way for Shin. Gonna look to just overwhelm the army, but this is the most dangerous time. As he's working towards some of the Hive tech, but it's not there yet. And ByuN is pumping on all cylinders. He still has the economy from his main base, which means he can support the 8 racks, 2 factories, and a reactored starport simultaneously. Shin is not slouching, though he doesn't have one of those upgrades for Zerglings that I was so impressed to see last game. He doesn't have the adrenal glands yet, alright? No drilling claws for ByuN, though, which is kind of a comparable scale mistake. A very important upgrade that gets forgotten maybe a little bit too often. Until it's very obvious you need it. The Zerglings, wow, just get gunned down. Without an upgrade advantage or adrenal glands, or both, ideally, they are just not good enough to fight the Marines. A full surround might be enough to do it. 2-2 is now done, though. Infantry up to... It's just Marines and medevacs here. And besides a few he's able to pick up and get out. Still no adrenal glands out of Shin. There it is! I was wondering if, like, if we had gone another minute or two, we might have just never gotten it. Either assumed he did or forgotten it. Thing is, it's possibly the least visual upgrade in the game for something of that scale. Like, it doesn't... They should have, like, red-tipped claws or something. Even Drilling Claws has the little laser on top of the Widowmons, on top of the fact that they're cloaked after firing, and that's kind of obvious. And they're fast. I guess adrenal gland. If you're watching the Zerglings and they're having a little spaz out over there, there's a reason they used to be called cracklings. In the Brood War, where it became very apparent when they got the attack speed upgrade. Spire's on the way. The full spread of Hive tech is in production. Whereas ByuN, just Marines, Marauders, Mines, medevacs, and tanks so far. The M&M. Yep, that. A drop to the north, attack to the south. Still a lot of pressure being put on. The drop mostly melted away as ByuN straying a little bit too far. Too close to the Banes. Marauders stim forward first. The Ultra's on the field. Chitinous plating is done. Ultra speed and adrenal glands about to complete, and then it'll be a fully operational Zerg army. Well, besides any spellcasters, but let's not get crazy. Meanwhile, not even a Ghost Academy out of ByuN. He's getting 2 more starports, which is quite a play at this stage of the game. Shin might have the answer with the Spire, but it looks like he's going to go for the Ghostless style, which can work, especially if you're just up against Ultras. But Corruptors will complicate things if he wants to rely on Liberators. Did not go well for those Marines. The Widow Mine's doing a lot of damage, but he's trying to drag the mines over the Bio Army, kiting away. The Ultra's cleaving through, and ByuN really struggling to stabilize this position. He does have a planetary fortress to the south. The Marauders microing back, but there's just not that much left over. The positioning on the siege tank clearly showing its value, but Widowmine's gonna knock out some more. Drilling Claws just now started for ByuN. Missing a lot of opportunities to get some extra damage done. A Panic Cyclone. There's no way he wants to make one Cyclone right now. Some sort of just smash down on the hotkeys. Shin holds. ByuN, part of the nature of this composition, though, you can keep your supply very high, as none of your units are quite as costly. If you're not investing so much in the Ghosts, you can pump out a lot more, arguably less effective, yet quantity has a quality all its own. That's what I'm trying to say here. Planetary Fortress, holding for a few moments, but the banelings roll right through. Unfortunately, the banelings kind of thinned out immediately. The Ultras will get exploderated moments later. Another attack. Widowmine just gonna abandon this base entirely. The SCVs. No room in the command center. A few more SCVs gonna be taken out, and ByuN is down to 62. A double drop headed across the map. Shin has a few Zerglings. A token defense, but The banelings rolling in. The Cyclone does a great job sacrificing itself for the greater good. The Liberator's over the top. The drop gonna find a few drones of damage. Might be able to take out the hatchery. Reinforcements are here. Hatchery at half HP. +3 melee attack about to complete, but I think he gets the hatch if he focuses. He does. Knocks it out, the hatchery. To, we're gonna call it the 2:30. Maybe 2:45 p.m., of course. Base on the map. 5 drones, and a stable of mules just dropped. And the income may, for a moment, on this mule stimulus package, stabilize just a bit as ByuN takes the center base as well. Shin investing in 9 corruptors. He's got the infestors underneath. Let's see if mule mounting can break even. I don't think it's quite enough. It's a lot of mules. ByuN, 69 SCVs. The Burrow Fester down the center. So close. Well, if he's able to deny this base, there's some Burrow Bane mines out there in case he gets a lucky angle on the Marines. Liberator not going to be nearly enough to deal with this. The Ultra's coming down from an odd angle. The Infestor is spotted. Throws out a casual fungal. It kind of reveals the Infestors early there. Not sure how you burrow into this force field area, but we don't worry about it, all right? Space alien magic. Don't question it. Another Burrow Fester. I don't think ByuN really noticed it was there. Otherwise, he definitely would have split off some of those units. Hello? Those Marines gonna get cloven in twain. Meanwhile, the main army moving across. ByuN with 124 army supply. The fungal from the back holds down a whole bunch of the army. The Widowmine's drawn into the fray. The Ultra's trundling through. The Liberator's taken out by the Corruptors. But there's enough biomass to fall back to. The drop picked up a few of the dregs. But Shin maintaining such an income lead. He can afford to lose huge chunks of his army. He can replace it. Though he doesn't have that much gas in the bank currently. Yeah, he hasn't mined too much gas in general. How many command centers? ByuN has 6 orbital commands, so not quite as ridiculous a number, and he is fully committed to the ghostless Terran. Which, it's a bold move. We'll see if it works out for him. Shin coming right down the center, but the overlapping Olympic rings of freedom here will... he's just building the Vikings. The Vikings with a discount since the last patch. And against the Corruptors, not a terrible choice. Corruptors only really get a bonus against massive units. So, against things like battle cruisers in this case. Not so much against Vikings and Liberators, but I think your mother would still be closer to the battle cruiser. But Ultralisk burrows. Can't dodge the scan, though. The army on the field just being cloven apart again. The Ultras trundling through. Many of them will die, but that's a sacrifice that Shin is willing to make. He has lost now 11 Ultralisks. 5 more in production. The Burrow Fester, very hard to spot except for the lighter color tile sets, which is an interesting quirk. The Burrowed Banes unburrow and get a hit on the Marines and Marauders. ByuN will pick up and they'll get out for now. But Viper gets sniped off. But I can't help but feel like the momentum has been inexorably sliding towards the Zerg. The income has been in Shin's favor for the overwhelming majority of the last 10 minutes. The army supplies are dead even. Shin is a little supply blocked from losing so many overseers, but the army composition just can't compete. There's a reason that ghosts are the meat and the potatoes of the late game. Without it, you're at the whims of the Ultralisks, the Infestors, and even the Vipers. The Corruptors enough to zone things out. The Ultras will just cleave right through to shreds, I say. ByuN down to 100 supply, and he's not getting back up from this one. Shin takes 2 in a row. And so far, the second more decisive than the first. At no point, no point once Hive Tech was done, did it really feel like ByuN had an opportunity to turn it around. He got locked into that ghostless composition, which some Zergs will try to meet him where they are. All right, they'll skip the Infestors, the Vipers. Not that the Vipers really did much, but they'll skip the Spellcasters themselves. And eventually, one fight can so easily turn the momentum around. If you don't have the Infestors to literally hold them down and stop them from getting so excited. But thankfully for Shin, by the end he did. So, with that, we're going into potentially match point game number 3. Shin 2-0. ByuN coming up a little short. And it's been a little while. I feel like I keep saying this because the Shin is like the 3rd Zerg player who seems to have taken a break and come back stronger with the new patch. I do wonder, like, every time there's a new patch, the Zergs have to go into their evolution chamber. All right, they gotta go back into their cocoon to figure out how to play. Solar was on vacation when the new patch randomly dropped, and he's come back, and he's arguably the best Zerg right now. Because Cyril has not been playing. He's played one major match against Clem, and he lost. Solar has beaten Clem more than Cyril on this patch, so. But Shin also, he didn't play in tournament. I don't know if he went on vacation, if he went on a spirit retreat, or if he was just busy playing the new Battlefield or something. It's pretty good. I mean, I don't love it. I don't hate it. I still like Battlefield 1 more. But that's besides the point. All right. What was I? Shin. And so he joins the ranks of these Zerg players who always, like, there's like a few months, 3 to 6 months out of each year, and it really depends on the streak of tournaments, that they look like they could be the best. Shin, formerly known as Ragnarok, which I thought was cool. But Shin is his name, so we went with that, which I guess is good branding. Not that I know anything about that. Yeah, name yourself after a season that also half the tournaments of the year are named after winter. So when people search Winter StarCraft, they get ESL WCS NA 2014. Well, hopefully not anymore, but I'm not saying it's a good idea. What I'm saying is if enough people like and subscribe and Blizzard stops giving a singular shit about Shin against the game. You see, my point being, Jimmy, edit it in like I figured out what my point was immediately. Because people will get concerned. I know. My point being, Shin, one of those Zergs, up there with Solar and Raynor, and that's about it, really. That occasionally looks like they're gonna be the best Zerg. Like they're gonna be up there with Cyril. You know what? Cyril's in a different category. The best Zerg. And then they have like another half the year, sometimes including the most major tournaments, where they just kind of lose. I don't even know how to say, like, Zerg is so different than Terran and Protoss. And this is not a balance, this is a design thing. Like, when you're feeling it with Zerg, when you're on point, But when you're not, it's the opposite of that. I'm not going to simulate that. More so than Terran and Protoss. Like, Terran and Protoss, you can't get build order wins with Zerg like you get with Terran and Protoss. You can lose to those build orders as Zerg, though. But when you're in the zone, you don't. You just don't. And it's just so many little things. That and... So Team Basilisk just made Cyril sit down in a totally not hostage video. And he breaks down his series against Classic. One of his series against Classic at the World Cup. And so much of it boils down to, I know he's going to do this, so I'm here. Like, Cyril just knowing what Classic is going to do before he does it. And even then, it's very hard. Like, the game was 40 minutes long, is one of the games in the series. But even though he knew what he was going to do, but he stuck with the plan the whole time. And, yeah, though I don't think other Zergs work like Cyril. That's why I say we can't be in the same category. Because it's just, he's just built different. Other Zergs play like Zerg. Cyril plays like Cyril. Though Solar gets close. I've really This is all sorts of different circles here, but I really do recommend that video. I debated doing like a reaction video to Cyril's. Yes, I see the Mutas, by the way. I see the Spire in production, but nothing's gonna happen for 30 seconds. Stop worrying about it. I debated doing a reaction video, but Cyril actually talks the entire time. I mean, I have a video of Cyril doing coaching with me, of admittedly lower level replays, besides the one I had Cyril do of his own, but the whole time he's breaking it down in his adorable Muta-based Finnish accent. Adorable? Is that what I'm gonna go with? That's offensive. I think it's offensive. Well, I mean, it's adorable because he speaks English better than me. But I speak American, so that's different. ByuN goes in, ByuN goes out. You can't explain that. Mutas on the way. Anyways, the Team Basilisk YouTube channel is what I was getting at. And then come right back here. And you'll know the moment I have a Cyril game. But unfortunately, 8 Mutas on the way. All over the place. 9. And now, what did ByuN see? Nothing. He got nothing out of this. And there's no gases at the 3rd, so there's not much of a giveaway either. Okay, well, he spotted the Mutas with the banshee, so that's a giveaway. Now he knows. And the missile turret's on the way up. The banshee's just getting knocked out of the sky. And ByuN, well, scrambling back with the Hellions because there's not much else to be done. The Hellions are not going to get any damage. The missile turret protecting. Now, the question is, will Shin go mass Muta? Or is this just a stopping... Well, okay, you can just kill the Marines, I guess, right? Hello? No, I'm sorry. That's not what I meant. All right, well, so there are 3 Marines, there are 9 Mutas. The numbers don't lie, and they spell disaster for ByuN. He'll probably be able to get enough Marines out, and I'm kind of surprised that Shin didn't just go into the main and try to camp the production. I mean, he went for the lower hanging fruit in the most literal sense, gets a couple supply depots. Feels like a bit of a missed opportunity, though, as there was... Now, Shin can't know this. I feel like Shin assumed. He thought he gave ByuN the benefit of the doubt. He probably has enough Marines in the main that I'm not going to get anything done, so I'll just take what I can. No, he had 3 Marines total. ByuN got so greedy, he went with a double engineering bay. He's already got 2-2 on the way. He went double engineering bay. He had nothing. But Shin, well, even though Shin doesn't directly punish him for it with the Mutas, he's punishing him economically. We got there. There are 4, 5, 6 hatcheries now. He doesn't have an enunciate. He does not have an infestation pit. Okay, that just sounds clinical. He ain't got no infestation. There's no infestation pit. So he's not going straight to Hive, but 13 drones on the way. Meanwhile, the Muta, the Overseer. Shin's out of changing. Infestation pit's on the way. That's usually the biggest sticking point for Zerg. Going Mutaling Bane is no matter how much you get done, if you're not able to outright kill the Terran and they're able to get close to 200 supply, then you're stuck on Lair Tech. And really, you need a Hive. But Shin acknowledging that with the infestation pit on the way, the double upgrades. He's got 92 drones and he's building 6 more. That's a lot of drones. All right. 97. Can I get 100? Shin, 98. I don't think we're going to get 100. He's going to start building other buildings and such, but... And that is actually too many, by the way. 98 drones. I guess we're 9 minutes in the game. He's going to have so much money. Oh, wow. Close enough. Honestly, having the watchtower is probably more important than having perfect mining at the gold. So you can do the Rube gold-based machine. You can knock down these rocks, hit the watchtower, take out the rocks, and then free up the base. But let's be honest here. These are the players who voted for the most standard maps to be in the map pool. They don't want to go through this sort of Indiana Jonesian setup in order to unlock a gold base. As much as map makers think it'll be clever, players are like, excuse me, no. And instead, here we are. The spine crawler's coming online. Thor in production. As ByuN scrambles for ways to knock the mutas out of the sky. The Hive is not quite there yet. Almost completed. The muta count is high enough. He's got +2 attack as well. Able to take those missile turrets out with relative ease. A couple volleys from the mutas. And honestly, at this point, kind of trying to trade them out a little bit. The money number is like 15. Just enough to one-shot Widow Mines and easily take out Medivacs. He's whittled down to 14, builds 4 more. Hive is completed. Let's see it, Shin. Let's see it, Shin. Hive is completed. Ultralisk Cavern and Adrenal Gland. Hive Tech is on the way. Oh, there's a Zerg. I'm like, who's holding the watchtower, though? For now. The Zergling at the watchtower. Meanwhile, ByuN has some... I guess he just transformed the Hellions from earlier. He didn't add the Hellbats in. So many banelings. The Mutiling Bane back in style. +3 flyer attack is on the way. As Shin is leaning heavily onto the admittedly somewhat fragile wings of the mutas. But he's now taken 3/4 of the bases on the map. Wait, no, he has a hatchery. He has a hatchery at the 9 o'clock, right outside ByuN's third. Maybe fourth, but hatchery gets taken out. Bottom left corner, knocks out another medevac, splitting off, eats a Widowmine hit on the Banes. There's a Thor to hold things down, but Shin is starting to build up the Ultralisk swell. The changelings targeted down. The rocks are dropped on the watch. Brenda! No! Oh, he's definitely... Okay, he's using base camera injects is what's happening with these queens. The awkward part of that is if your creep spread isn't so good, then the queens... Well... Here we are. Adrenal glands is done. Spinecrawler is going to slow things down just a little while. Maybe enough for the Zerglings to get in position. Muta's trying to take out some more of the Widow Mines. Medium success. Banelings! A little bit more down the center. The Medivacs next on the agenda. Oh no. Widow Mine's getting some big bites on the way out. The Lings and Banes rolling through. And Shin successfully freeing up supply for 9 Ultralisks in production. Awkward. Does he know about this base? Oh my. He's technically saw the creep, but nothing that really gives it away. Try to land a command center. Hey, in the pipe 5x5, right, boys? Hey, where are we going? Changeling in place. Muta's coming in. And Shin. Thing is, ByuN still has 200 supply. He's still right up there. He's getting a Ghost Academy. He's got multiple Thors. There's a whole bunch of Ultras now on the field. But with Thors and this many Marauders alongside the Widowmines and Medivacs, there is a scenario where the Ultras could die for almost nothing. All right, as an arguably great man Hydra once said, when I'm really far ahead and I want to lose, I build Ultras. Now, they're definitely more usable than back in the olden days, where compositions such as this, minus the Widowmines, are a lot more common. But many of the same principles still apply. So many banelings. And he's taken down the rocks to open up the gold. Meet deja vu. We've just seen this base here before. Here come the Ultras. And the base already softened up by the Mutas, trying to magic box on top, minimize the splash. Ultras cleaving through the planetary no object. The banelings mostly knocked out, but the Ultras, there are just too many of them. We cannot get out. They are coming. And the Muta's gonna knock down some of the medevacs. ByuN down 60 supply. And he's got everything. He has absolutely everything. Shin has bases across the entire center of the map, including both contested golds and both corners. And ByuN, unable to really fight back against Shin in what looks to be the entire series. Looking more one-sided than a Mobius strip right now. Unless there's some sort of miracle or unconscionable mistake from Shin at this point. Which I guess for Terrans could be interpreted as a miracle. It seems almost impossible that this is going to be turned around. There is 13 Ultras. And enough Mutas to still kill the Widow Mines as long as you target fire well. Well, the Ultra leading the charge. The sacrifice. As he just cleaves through everything. The Ghost will get some shots. The Ultra's trundling through. Well. Yeah, it could be better. It definitely could be worse. But it could be a lot better, though. That's a lot of dead Ultras displayed across the field. 122 Zerglings. Another round. And ByuN survives, but he certainly doesn't thrive. And Shin already well in the depths of Hive. ByuN's turn to die. There are just too many. The Zerglings, the banelings, the Ultras, oh my, and the Corruptors over to the top to knock down the Liberators and the medevacs once and for all. The SCV, wow, that SCV went that whole 3 screens. 3 like the JJ. Shin sweeps ByuN like that SCV out of the entire series and brings us to our anti-spoiler bonus game. Hero versus Shin. Yeah, you were wondering how bad it got. Oh, don't worry. It's time for some winter madness. But Shin rolling over in a near literal sense ByuN in that throughout the entire series. ByuN with really no opportunity to fight back. And a great effort, but it does feel like ByuN tried nothing and he was all out of ideas. But sometimes you just can't let the Zerg get to a certain point. Like I said, Shin sometimes is that Zerg. He is that Zerg. Solar feels like it as well. And they're both peaking right now on the new patch. Maybe the rumors of Zerg struggles. Now, here's the thing. In my not-so-humble opinion, the new patch did make Terran versus Zerg a lot better. We're so used to seeing Clem and Maru with 26 ghosts, creating infinite balance complaints. But it is nearly impossible to get to that point for, you know, normal human beings. And that is not every game for them. Though Clem does have a tendency to make Terran look an order of magnitude better than it is. Except when he's playing Protoss. I know. And the win rates bear that out. I believe, checked before this series. Not this series. Well, technically also before this one. The win rates on the last patch for Terran versus Zerg were approximately 58% to 60%. Usually hovered around there. Terran favored against Zerg. Now it's only around 52. And that's without Cero play. I have no idea what Shin is saying, but Hero's laughing at him, which feels like every Hero series. Yeah. You're like, wow, Winter went 3 games without talking about Hero. I may have talked about Hero. I don't actually remember about... I don't know how much I don't remember because that doesn't make any sense, but... Also, don't know what's happening here, but clearly some content... There hasn't been anything happening in this match besides Hero's absolute tragedy of a wall-in. This is more like a 2-lane highway here. Certainly one of the ways you can kind of do that. Maybe there's some drama that happened previously in the series or in their careers. Or Hero just prompts this out of people, but after barely any words exchanged, which is kind of surprising for ByuN and Shin. ByuN especially. We get into Hero versus Shin and, well... we will see. Believe the same tournament, the Revival Starling. We're going to see the playoffs. Well, you'll get all the highlights here. Make sure to check out Tasteless's channel and the RSL channel if you'd like to watch them with a bit more promptness. Shout out to them for hosting a GSL-style tournament in this day and age. Fuck off, Hero. I would love it if that's a stalker-type wall. I wouldn't even be surprised. Like, depending on the angle, there's some angles you can slip in a depth through, but a stalker or your mother would definitely have a real struggle. I don't think that's it. That's just... it's just bad. Thanks. I hate it. Like, I physically hate it. Great job, Hero. Another banger from the Hero School of Architecture. No insurance required, or possible. First Oracle, though, ignores. That's disrespectful! 2 drones dead, flies on out. Absolutely no caring or respect for the queens. He always finds the most uncomfortable looking patrol path things as well. That's another art form. Like, it's about that intangible factor of how often you make your opponent upset by how you are playing. Not by their own mistakes, but by mistakes that you are making, arguably. The Forrest Gumpian school of Protoss again at work. And so far, like, this isn't crazy. So far we have relatively standard 3 base. Couple oracles dancing around, annoying all the Zergs they can get close to, which is all of them because they're oracles. Blink Stalkers on the way behind. A few more gates in production. Shady bunch joining the oracles. Casually glides by for a revelation and slices away at the creep. Shin, not worried too much about it, has his 4th hatch on the way. Oracles get 4 more drones. Wow, so quick about it. Might be able to deny the 4th base. Is there? I think there's enough energy if the queens don't come by. But yeah. The Adept shade into the natural, and he's got 9 drone kills here, which is uncomfortably high. 10 drone kills for pretty much the throwaway. It comes in like 12 drone kills. He loses 4 Adepts. Feels like playing against Hero is like walking around in wet socks. Where you might stop for a moment, and you won't remember, and you'll be able to ignore it, but then you take a step. Here come the oracles again! An amount of Blink Stalkers is on its way across the map. Shin was actually a little supply blocked at a very awkward time. So he has very few units Only 18 Zerglings and a few queens to deal with this. Hero may be able to pick up this hatchery. Blinks back. Baits the stasis. Literally hits nothing. Good pullback. And the hatchery is badly bruised, but is not quite close to dead. Gonna just micro against the Zerglings. Trying to trigger some more stasis on the back line. You can't go too far because the oracles can still light up and burn away the lings. Counterattack gonna be attempted. Hero actually ahead on workers now. Working towards charge and +1. That hatchery gonna be a liability for the foreseeable future. Pretty solid positioning. Zerglings trying to sneak in. Hero just used a warp in. Yeah, the Zerglings actually... Okay, wait a second. Now warping in, but he's actually going to kill several probes here. +1 melee is done. 4 probes. And the cannon protecting everything. The zealots are just walking in. Because charge isn't done. Meanwhile, the hatchery... We'll be back. Looks like Hero tried to take a 4th base, but a few lings in position to deal with it. Wave of banelings on the way. Baneling speed completing. Great timing so far. Banelings rolling in. The Templar and the probes will sacrifice. Kind of unnecessary, but sure, throw it in there. Meanwhile, Zerglings get into the main. He's 6 probes in general. Oracle's dead because they just stood around and waited for the Hydras to kill him. And Hero, what a save. How is there a Zergling in the main? Okay, not anymore. 7 probes dead. Hero loses an inordinate amount of workers to a surprisingly small amount of lings and banes. And the Hydra count is so damn high that he's going to be forced into full retreat with just 3 bases. Which is far from ideal at this stage of the game. The start. Where are you going? Don't you dare recall. Oh my. 3 survivors. No, 2. That last one died on the way out. One of the more sad recalls. I feel like every week we could do a top 10 most sad recalls compilation. And it would just be Hero in 2 games. I don't know. The banelings doing their job of thinning out the zealots with... Well... Hero down 50 supply. And Shin really didn't have to work for it. Hero just threw his units into the meat grinder, the banelings. And, well, at least Storm is done. A fleet beacon is on the way. But Hero now trapped in a prison mostly of his own design. Barely any units. And the attack coming in. There's a lot of Storm ready. The infestation pit just started for Shin on the other side. He's up to 74 drones. Adding in some spine crawlers to deal with zealot run-bys. And the 4th Nexus. Shin with the Diva announcer for extra APM. Meanwhile, Hero with the... Just gonna throw some storms out there. We're gonna find out eventually. We need to know. Mothership on the way. Energy recharge. His units aren't under attack very often. All his enemies just die before they get close. What a cinematic there. He saw the zealots, he's like, no. Give me the rest. But wait, here's Hero. The storms. And the storm's coating absolutely everything. The Archon merged at the last moment. But the 360-degree surround is... Well... The zealots come back from the run-by. Decide that they're needed back at home, and I think they're right about that. Another Templar will live for an extra moment. The Zerglings snipe it off. And somehow the supplies are dead even. Shin lost 1,000 more gas. Wait, no, he killed 1,000 more gas in that fight. But somehow Hero turns what was a 30-40 army supply lead into nothing. Storm will do that, but that was about as good of a fight as Shin could have ever hoped for. Oh my, a mothership. And how many overseers? 0. That's not very many. The mothership could potentially win the game on its own. Hero threw away his entire army, rebuilt one, somehow held the line, and now if he can bait Shin into a terror, he pre-cloaks. Who does that? Well, he pre-cloaks the army, and he might be able to take out the base with it. He's building 3 overseers, but the hatchery will be dead by the time the overseers are completed. Yes, he knows. I don't know. And Time Warp is still available. Storm on the Banes. The mothership itself doing a lot of damage. Can attack while moving. Immortals and Archons thinning things out. More storms. Time Warp on everything. Survives through it. The Hydra's cosplaying an anti-air unit here. Almost successfully taking out the mothership. It looks like it will be taken down momentarily. There's still a lot of units on the ground, though, for Hero. 15 drones died alongside the base. The Archons... Warp Prism decides that this isn't the fight it wants to take. Shin? How is Shin so low on supply? And drones. What? 57 drones against 69 probes. Hero still in a very nice position economically. I don't... Feels like he baits the hook with these fights. Sometimes he takes fights so poorly that his opponents are convinced they can win the game. Or at least do critical damage. And then they don't. And Hero's here with a 10 supply lead against a Hydraling Bane army. He's got +3 ground weapons, and he's building an carrier. 1 carrier! Moral support carrier. But it's a... He didn't have any other carriers, Shin! But 1 carrier is enough. And honestly, the fact that he could afford even 1, I don't think Shin was winning that fight. He taps it out, despite cleaning ByuN off the field. 3 games in a row. Hero, at least in this one, able to turn the tables. That intangible quality. So even in a series that didn't have a Protoss, Hero wins. Hopefully you enjoyed as much as I did. Shin with that masterclass, Zerg versus Terran, and Hero existing. But thank you for watching. I hope I made your day a little bit better. And if you got the means and motivation, be awesome to check out the Patreon or YouTube membership right in the description. And thank you to our Mule Tier patrons for bringing in those extra minerals. Big Jiggy, Davendor, Kate, Mario Soup. Glad you still enjoyed, everyone. Thank you for watching. And if you haven't yet checked out this video, it'd be incredible. And also, I hear liking and subscribing and smashing that hype button are still free. At least for now. Thank you for watching. Good luck. Have fun. I'll see you next time. Stay chill.